All right. Hi, Ana. Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
For anyone who doesn't know you or doesn't know us or doesn't know about the IELTS and the test, then the idea is to explain a little bit what the test is about, what are the main differences between the academic part and the immigration part, and it's great to have you. So thank you so much. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Diego. I work with students for about 7 years now. Medical students is the major thing because I work with a college. It's called King Charles College for anyone who wants to study medicine or dental studies or anything like that. So I've been working with students for quite some time. And I've been working recently with the IELTS and preparation for students who want to study abroad. Doesn't have to be medical, but anything, whatever they want to study abroad. Ana, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Yeah, so I've been teaching international students for the last 20 years at the post-secondary level, and for the last 11 years, I've been involved in IELTS examining. Now, pre-COVID, everything had gone well, and since we had to stop during the last 2 years, I actually haven't returned to examining, and I'm focusing more on examining training and helping candidates get prepared to pass their exam, either the general-based IELTS or the academic-based IELTS. So the general, you had asked earlier, the general one is mainly for immigration preparation reasons. So for candidates that want to immigrate to an English-speaking country, they need to prove English proficiency. Usually at a 5.5 to 7 band grade, depending on the country they're immigrating to. And the academic-based IELTS is mainly for academic purposes. So candidates that want to attend post-secondary, college, or university level academic programs. And again, depending on the program and the post-secondary institution, their bands might be anywhere. Usually an average would be 6. That would be the minimum that is required. And then depending on the program, if it's an undergrad, it could be between 6 and a 6.5 to a 7. And usually a master's or a PhD program would require a bit of a higher band, usually 7 and above.
Could it be that universities that are in more demand, like, I don't know, like more prestigious universities demand even for a bachelor's degree, like a higher mark than 6 or something like that?
They could. It's really dependent on what the university is looking for. And even within the university, each program has their own requirement. I have known lots of candidates that have applied to the same university, but at different programs, even at the same level. Mm-hmm. So, for example, a master's of business administration and a master's of psychology at the same university would require different bands.
Yeah.
So there's really no one band that is required globally. It's really dependent on the university and each specific program as well.
So you mentioned earlier also, I know that you work as an examiner for the IELTS. And I wanted to ask you, because I get a lot of students, they're asking me, so a lot of them, they don't know their what will be, they never did the test before. And many of them, they already did it. So those who already done it, then of course they know better what they would like to get. From a general point of view, what is the difference from someone who wants to achieve a higher grade, like more than 5.5, let's say, and someone who doesn't know but wants to take it for the first time? What would be your recommendation for someone who, for example, never took it and doesn't know what his score is, but you know where you know,
Right.
what students are. So what would be your recommendation to
Yeah,
them?
that's a good question. Usually we look at a person that can score 6 as being competent. Now, competent for us is bare minimum. So, for example, for academic purposes, a 6, if I close my eyes, I can imagine somebody sitting in a classroom taking notes and listening for 2 hours.
Mhm.
If you can do in English,
Of
if you
course.
can if you
Yeah.
can do that,
Yeah.
right, then you're probably sitting between a 5.5 and a 6.
Yeah.
And a 0.5 difference is very small.
Uh,
Um, we say that, unfortunately, IELTS is an exam like any other. So we usually say it's 80% skill, 20% luck.
mm,
And that luck is really about the test questions that you get on that day, because the questions are random, right?
mhm,
So if you take the test one day and then you take it the next month, the questions are going to be very different.
mhm,
The level of the exam will be the same, but the questions will be different. So maybe somebody has studied, questions about the environment or education or health, and they can answer those questions quite easily, right? And then the next time they take it, there's questions about, space travel, car mechanics.
uh,
Those are not everyday topics, right? So the,
yeah.
the, the person might struggle to answer those, even though they have
Yeah.
great skills.
Mhm.
Those topics are just not easy topics, right, for anybody to
Yeah.
talk about. So there's a little bit of a luck component as well that, unfortunately, that's just part of what it is.
Mhm.
But in general, if you can listen, to a podcast, an English podcast for a couple of hours, and take notes generally easily, you're probably sitting at around a 6. If you need to take a break, if you're struggling to understand most of what is being said, then you're probably below a 6.
I wonder what would be your so for example, I'm sure you can tell from someone who never prepared, for example, for the IELTS, and someone who actually prepared or did
Yes.
some research at least,
Yes.
or took some personal lessons, which is what we encourage students to do.
Yes.
But what will be, because I get a lot of students that they ask me like, but can I just take it without preparation?
Mm.
Very common question. It's like, I mean, no one is forcing you to prepare for an exam.
Right.
But what's the difference from your point of view, which you are an insider, so
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's no one that will tell anybody that they can't take the test. However, personally, I think it's a bit of a waste of time and money, because you're likely not going to do well unless you have been immersed in the English language. And by immersed, I mean living in a country that speaks that language, where
Mhm,
you are forced to read the signs on the streets and you're forced to listen to people talking when you're at the grocery store, right?
mhm,
And you are reading English texts all the time. You're likely not going to score above a 6. So again, for us, 6 is sort of the average, right?
yeah,
Um, so, I mean, if people want to take it, go ahead and take it. But the recommendation is always to do a little bit of preparation before, even if it's just a simple understanding of the structure of the exam,
mhm,
how much time you have, what kind of
mhm,
question types will be asked, and do a little bit of practice. There's lots of practice that students can do
yeah,
without taking a formal course. It all depends how much time they have,
yeah,
and how much effort they're willing to put in. I have helped students 2 weeks before an exam, and also, a year before the exam.
hmm,
Um, it really depends on how much
yeah,
time and energy somebody has, and willingness,
yeah,
right, to
yeah.
prepare themselves.
All right.
But it's shocking. I should say that. The IELTS exam is a bit shocking
It's a
for
bit
somebody
shocking.
that's never taken it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
preparation is
I'm
always a
sure.
good.
It's funny because I get a lot of students that they really want to they feel confident, and they reach out just to for me to help them register to an exam, or to help them basically to guide them, which I have no problem, of course. It's like they say, you get what you pay for, right?
That's
So
right.
definitely. So and the same happens with the students going for a medical degree. They go for a very difficult exam, and um, there's no magic. You
That's right. That's
prepare, you
right.
do better. You prepare less, you do less good, I guess.
That's right. I think with any exam,
Yeah.
you know, to learn to drive, for example, right? My son is at the age where he's taking his driver's license. That's great, but you can't do it without, you know, reading a book first and learning about the signs and, you know, the rules of the road. So I think with any exam, if you're wanting to do well the first time,
Yeah.
right, you have to take a little bit of time and effort into preparing. As you said, we can't force people to do it, but the recommendation is to definitely spend a little bit of time,
Yeah.
energy, you know, to find out what the questions might be like, so that you're not shocked, as most people are the first time they do it without any
Yeah.
preparation.
Could you say roughly, obviously, what's the average of students who pass the score of 6, the mark of 6 that you and those who obviously they don't achieve this mark roughly? I mean,
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We usually, I mean, we're pretty upfront, right? We don't want to give anybody any false hope. So usually students don't pass the first time they do IELTS. And by pass, that's a very general word, because
yeah,
not everybody needs the same number,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Some people
Yeah.
might need a 5, some people might need a 7, and there's
Mm.
everything in between. But most candidates don't achieve the band they need the first time they do it,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of that shock value and because of the lack of preparation, right? I mean, again, I've been examining for 11 years, so I've seen all kinds of candidates. But people that I have helped personally, I mean, the student that I helped for almost a full academic year, 8 months, she dropped everything. You know, she dropped everything that she was doing and just focused on IELTS. Clearly, she did very well. Right? This is one of the rare people I know that has passed the first time. And then there's people that I also know that have done it multiple times.
Yeah.
Because there was one skill that was holding them back. So they were able to pass 3 of the skills.
Yeah.
But there was one skill for many people was writing, right?
Exactly.
And they just weren't getting the band they needed. So they just needed to keep practicing that one skill.
Yeah.
So
why is it, I want to ask you, Anna, why is it that writing is the most difficult skills or the most challenging of all skills?
yeah, no, I think writing culturally is very different. Structurally, right? In different cultures, we write in a different way. So for example, in many Asian countries, Japan and China, the main idea is at the end. Right? Where in North America, we expect the main idea to come at the very beginning, right? Of that essay, right? So for somebody that comes from an Asian culture, for example, they have to totally rethink and reorganize the way that they write. So it's very challenging, right?
Wow.
Where, you know, for other cultures is the speaking component, right? They're not, you know, they're not used to speaking fluently, right? Confidently. Or maybe they don't have the vocabulary that's needed for an academic. You know, it's sort of like this. It's kind of like an interview, right?
Yeah. You said to me once that you focus on basically on speaking and writing, but do you help a student who, for example, is worried about the listening skill?
Yeah, so we help students. I help students in all 4 skills, but I examine only in speaking and writing, and that's because the reading and the listening are machine marked. They're not human marked, right? So it's basically a yes or no. We literally take the exams and we feed them through a machine.
Yeah, exactly.
So that there's no human needed to grade the listening or the reading. So we really just focus on the speaking and the writing components, because they're more, you know, sort of subjective to what a person thinks the band is. Yeah, no, but we do all 4. We train in all 4 skills.
What do you think the number of hours is for preparation when someone comes to you for the very first time, never took the IELTS before, and maybe they know someone who did the test before, and they know that writing is maybe a bit of a problem for them, or the opposite, or speaking, but what do you think the number of hours is needed for that person to you know, let's say this person, you discover he or she is in a 5, something like that, and they need to reach this minimum 6 or more, of course.
Yeah.
what do you think? What's the number of hours that this person usually needs to achieve that?
So from anything below a 6, it's pretty low understanding. So to go from anything below a 6 to above a 6 would take some time, right? And that time really is dependent on how much time the person has to practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could see people every day for an hour or 2 hours, but then how much more are they doing on their own, right?
Yeah.
Again, are they living in an English-speaking country? If yes, great. They will be forced to improve. But if they're not, then they need to be doing more on their own. And we give them, lots of links and YouTube.
Material, yeah.
There's lots of resources out there for people to
Yeah.
do on their own.
Yeah.
But again, it's very sort of personally tailored to the candidate's time. Every day would be ideal, right? So that you're always sort of thinking in English
Yeah.
and it's always fresh.
Yeah.
But if somebody has, only if they're working full time, for example, and they have a family and they can only have 2 hours a week, then that's what we work with. But that person will require much more time, right, to get it from below a 6 to above a 6.
Yeah. Great answers. What will be?
There's nothing very specific. I'm sorry. It's all very general.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because it really depends on the person, right, and how much time they have
Yeah.
to put towards the efforts into improving,
Yeah.
right? So again, if somebody can do this every day for a couple of hours, that's great. They will improve much faster
Yeah.
than somebody that only has a couple of hours a week.
For sure. And if a person is on a 6 or above and they need to reach a 7 or 7.5 or
Great. That's much easier.
yeah, that's much easier. Yeah.
Much easier. Yeah, in my experience, right? Because they probably only need some tweaks.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they don't realize that we look at, as examiners, we look at certain specific things in writing, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that might just be what they need. It's just an understanding of what we look at, right?
Yeah.
Some tips and strategies.
All right.
And again, the component of luck
Yeah.
can sometimes be the reason between a
Yeah.
6.5 and a 7. You just got a really difficult topic. Right?
Oh my God.
There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you want to wrap it up, and then we'll invite first of all anyone who needs to do the IELTS or is considering the IELTS to contact me, obviously, and obviously they can contact Ana as well and ask more questions. But to wrap it up, what do you recommend to that person that is watching you right now, is considering the IELTS, and give us 3 strong points for that person to start doing something and improve.
That's great. I guess number 1 would be to do something about it, right? A lot of people think about it, but they don't actually act on it, right? So as you mentioned, they can email you, they can email me, but start reaching out for help. There's no harm in needing help to study for an exam like the IELTS. So that would be number 1, right? Start today, reach out, ask for help, right? Number 2 would be to get resources, right? The internet is available to just about anybody nowadays, right? Do a simple Google search, right? What is required in the IELTS exam? Fill your head with information, right? Just do a general search, right? That would be number 2. And number 3 would be to ask questions, right? So reach out, ask for help, do a general search, right, on what is required. And number 3, right, ask for help. And asking for help sometimes means, well, maybe I need a course. Maybe I need a few hours a week, right? Or maybe I don't. Maybe I can do it on my own. Whatever you decide to do, it's fine. But decide on something and start right away, because it does take time.
Like everything in life.
Right?
Nothing comes easy and nothing comes fast.
Just do it, right? Thank you, Nike, right? Just do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ana.
Absolutely. Anytime, no problem.
Really, really great.
Okay. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody.